The following podcast contains spoilers and adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
The Showdown Podcast with Corey and Vic. A debate on what movie is better, Corey's choice versus Vic's choice. They each plead their case and try to destroy the others. It's a combat of subjective opinion. I'm Brad Scott, your impartial judge, and as always, my say is fine.
Welcome to the Showdown Podcast. Today's episode is the Deep Space Duel. In the Mars corner, Vic King to Bishop Miller and his film Aliens. And his opponent in the Uranus corner, Corey, I picked a movie from my 30s, Miller, and his film 2001, A Space Odyssey, with your host and referee, Brad Captain E.O. Scott. Let's get ready to podcast. Showdown podcast. Corey, Vic, and Brad. Showdown. Welcome to the Showdown Podcast. This is our Deep Space Duel, and pretty shitty category if you ask me, but we're gonna have fun with it. And
why do you say it's a shitty category?
Well, I think this is the oldest movie in the history of the Showdown?
I think so, since we did have the one lost episode. I think that one was older.
Okay, so to our listeners, is this the oldest movie? Yeah. God damn it. They don't know about that episode, Corey. They've never heard it, and we've referenced it maybe once.
I know. But I think because of that, this is now our oldest movie. I don't know. What about the original Longest Yard? What year did that come out?
Oh, that was 70s, right?
Yeah, definitely after this. I think so.
I'm on that. I got it.
I think you might be right. I think that might be 70s.
Longest Yard. Or what does Vic call it? The 9 yard?
The whole 9 yards.
Longest Yard, 74.
Okay. Yeah.
So by 6 years, this is the oldest. Pretty appropriate that the two oldest movies in the history of the Showdown have both been represented by the oldest member of the Showdown. Grandpa Miller over here.
You joke, but Vic is actually older than me.
Well, yeah, but that's not as funny. Vic's black, and black don't crack. And you have cracked years ago, my friend.
If you and I walked up to someone and said, "Guess which one of us is older?" You'd lose.
Well, even if they arrange the three of us,
right?
Here's the thing. I could even have, because my hair is thinning at parts, but I could wet my hair down to where it looks like it's thinning a little bit, even kind of separate it and clump it a little bit together so it looks like a little thin. And they'd still put me ahead of you. They'd just they take one look at your Clooney beard you're trying to rock with the salt and pepper.
Yeah, the gray hair doesn't help me much.
His beard just push it away from his face.
Push it real good.
So space. Did either of you have a big interest in space when you were growing up?
I was not that kid that wanted to be an astronaut. There was a lot of people. You always hear that thing.
You probably could. Right?
There are challenges, but now you always see those people who are always. Oh, I wanted to be an astronaut when I was little. I never really had that interest. I think that my interest with space was I really wanted to see an alien when I was little. That was my interest in space. Is okay, well, space is a real thing. Then maybe aliens could be a real thing, which would be kind of cool. So that was more of my connection to space than anything.
Corey?
No, not really.
Excellent contributions. Great topic. Go ahead.
You could not cut me off. But no,
This kitten's got claws.
Kitten's got mittens.
The only space thing that I liked other than Star Wars when I was a kid was the movie Space Camp. If you remember that.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
That launched like a bunch of space camps, right?
Yeah.
Probably so.
I think you got to kind of wonder how if you're getting your money's worth if you go to a space camp in like Louisville, Kentucky, or
Yeah.
I don't know. That sounds silly, but I don't know. There's
I think there's one in Alabama.
L.A.
It's a bunch of oil drums like welded together to look like a rocket. We need you to climb up inside of that.
But yeah, between that and then Star Wars, those were really the only things that I really cared about as far as space goes. So no, I mean I didn't really have any interest. And to think about it now, sure, it might be interesting to go out and like to if it were possible to like go to different planets or whatever. But still the thought of being in deep space, being in space itself, just is kind of scary to think about.
No, I was gonna say I remember having like a lot of space books as a kid. Like I had this one, it was like a cartoon kid and a spaceship, and then each page, the cartoon kid and the spaceship would be somewhere on a photo of an actual photo of like of the planets. And that just that always fascinated me. I'm like, how do they get a close up like that of fucking Pluto?
Oh, yeah.
That far away, really? And back then we didn't even have HD or anything. And these are just crystal clear images of these planets, and I was always fascinated by how they could get those.
Yeah. The one thing that I think that really is kind of terrifying to think about is did you see the movie Gravity with Sandra Bullock?
Yes.
Okay. Just the thought of, if you were to become disconnected with whatever you're attached to out there, and then you just kind of drift off, and you just, it's like, what happens? You just keep on going. And it's like...
Do you have that fear? Would that be a big fear for you with that?
See, my problem would be, like, I'm kind of claustrophobic, so even putting on that spacesuit would probably just... I'd be done right there.
Here's where I think I'm weird. Doesn't scare me at all. I'd be like, finally, I'm peace and quiet. Nobody to fuck with me. Just give me cable and,
if you're floating off in
some
space,
weed. Give me cable and some weed, and I will happily be one. By the way, you know what I call the movie The Martian?
What?
No.
Gravity if Sandra Bullock was a man.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, they left me on a planet? I'll fucking make some food.
Right.
I'll grow some food on another planet.
I still have not seen that movie.
I haven't either. I couldn't believe they gave it an award for being a comedy.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that won Best Comedy at the Oscars. Right?
No.
Are you kidding me?
The Emmys.
What?
No, I mean the
Golden Globes?
Golden Globes.
Either way, that movie, like, I
Pretty
haven't
sure
seen
it was
either.
nominated, though, at least for
I
an
haven't
Oscar
seen it
as
either,
a comedy.
but how do they figure
don't
it's a
do comedies,
comedy?
The Oscars do comedies.
though. No, they don't.
They have a comedy category.
No, they don't.
What?
They don't do comedies or horrors. Not horrors.
I'm looking that up.
Horrors. No, go ahead. It's Golden Globes is the one you're thinking of, and everybody was like, "Why the hell is that nominated for a comedy as a comedy? It's not supposed to be."
So, anyways, we just ran this right into the ground with our. Now I'm busy over here looking. I'll wait. I'm gonna look that up at some point because I think you're wrong. But anyways,
All right.
if you're not, that'll be bonus points for you. How about that?
All right. Thank you.
So I think it's time we get into the meat and potatoes of why we're here, and we know we start off all battles with learning a little bit about your host and referees. History association with the movie, so you guys can get my background as to what we're dealing with. You ready? It's a little segment we like to call a fucking commercial.
Wow, I didn't know that was the name of the segment.
It went by quickly. You don't have to edit this one out. I'll let you leave this one. And now the Showdown Podcast presents Brad's History. Aliens, I remember as a kid vividly because of that suit that Sigourney Weaver wears. Probably my favorite movie of the franchise.
Powerlifter.
And I like those movies. So being my favorite of the franchises puts it almost on par with like the original Rocky and the original Jaws and stuff like that. One where I thought the sequel was better than the original. I thought it had more action and it was more scary. I've never seen 2001: A Space Odyssey because I don't eat dinner at 5 o'clock and watch Matlock. So, but here's the thing, Corey. You are at such a disadvantage here. I'm going to go in extremely optimistic and interested in what your movie's about, and I'm going to let you try to win me over. This has been Brad's History. So there we have it. And
he was half right. I do eat dinner at 5:30.
All he had to do was add MCL in there. Would have been
or Gray's.
right.
You ever been to Gray's? Oh, Gray's is amazing. So Gray
Gotta
Brothers.
have their pie.
No, yeah, the people his age always say like Gray's Brothers. So who's gonna call the coin toss? You know what? No, Corey, you're at the disadvantage. I'll let you call it.
Okay, I'll call tails.
Tails?
White privilege again.
Siri, flip a coin.
It's tails.
Look at you.
Yeah, I am going to go first.
Oh, he's coming out of the gates.
Swinging.
Man, I was really hoping you were going to give me time to check out this Oscar shit, but you want to dance? Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So this is a film from Stanley Kubrick from 1968, as we said already. Honestly, I didn't realize this was going to be the first. Or didn't think this was going to be the first Kubrick movie we had on our show, but because there are some other ones that I like more so.
Especially with you picking.
Yeah. We may see those later on, but with this particular one, it's you have to kind of. This one's really it's one of those movies that actually makes you think about what's going on. The film starts out with a bunch of gorillas out on a plane, and they're going through their gorilla work.
They're not gorillas.
Apes. Whatever.
No.
Yes. Okay. They're guys in gorilla suits.
Jesus.
Anyway, what are you gonna say?
They're Neanderthal man. They're Neanderthals.
They look.
They
like
are.
gorillas.
They are the first set of Neanderthals. That's the whole point of it.
They look like gorillas.
I'm gonna rule on this. It says one man ape. This is man ape. Call them man apes here on Wikipedia.
So we're both right.
I'm gonna split decision that. I'm not gonna hold it against you, but I'm also not gonna give Vic credit for pointing something out. So continue.
So okay, so they're going through their daily routines of fighting and scavenging for food, and then all of a sudden, what is later in the film called a black monolith appears, and what it is, it looks like an all black iPhone, and it's just standing right in the sand, and of course they have no idea what this is, and so they're kind of staring at it. Now the thing is here, for the first 25 minutes of the movie, through all of this, there's no dialogue at all. So it's just the viewer watching what's happening, and it's what gets it through that 25 minutes.
How many? 25 minutes?
25 minutes.
25 minutes.
Very long minutes.
And what gets through that 25 minutes is the music. Yeah,
The music did
really
not carry that.
Yes, I mean, you heard the song here at the beginning of
By the way, I apologize if the listeners hear this, but I'm actually I'm giving you my undivided attention. I went and got some candy corn that I'm opening up that I'm sure is 7 years. Can I open the candy corn?
Yes.
It's a little late now.
To get it's like my popcorn.
Okay.
I'm invested. Yeah, 25 minutes of music.
Yeah,
they had music.
It had music. And actually, the first 3 minutes, it's just an all black screen with the music playing. So you get a feeling of being in space, and then of course, when the picture actually starts, you start seeing all these man apes, as we called them. The music is playing, and so the music is driving the movie along with what you're seeing.
So it was just black for 25 minutes?
No.
You get 3 minutes of nonstop blackness, and then you just hear very, very low, super low, a little bit of music in the background. Then
the Ric Flair theme?
No, not even. At least you hear something exciting coming. But then it goes into they show the man apes, and then the music kind of picks up from there. But the music doesn't even track with anything that's going on. Like, it's just playing in the background, and they're running around doing things. It's not even like the music emphasizes what they're doing. It's just playing in the background so that you don't get as bored as you actually get watching them play around for 20 minutes.
Now, keep in mind, too, and you heard me comment going through some of the songs here before we started. It's all orchestra music. It's all around that same type of feel that we had with the opening song that we played, as we call it, the Ric Flair song. But once you see that and those man names start reacting, then it pans up to the sky into space, and now that's the transition to the future. And what it is a man has just he's a scientist, and he's just gotten onto the space station, and he's going to have this meeting with these other scientists because they found out that while they were digging on this planet, there was where they call it the monolith, the black monolith has shown up, and they've tried digging around it to try and see where it's coming from and trying to figure out what this is.
What?
It's a monolith.
What the fuck is a monolith?
It's a black door that keeps popping up all over the place.
Yeah, it's basically like I said.
You assume that was a casual term people knew?
That's what they use. Well, that's what they use in the movie. They call it a monolith.
Well, maybe you should explain that.
You want to talk with not food in your mouth?
People do this on podcasts all the time. You ever heard that?
Yeah, and it's probably annoying too.
Okay, hold on.
Eating it's always healthy. I'm eating some almonds.
I know we're supposed to be fighting, but if I had to sit through all this bullshit for this movie, can you at least give some actual information about the movie? Like, the most interesting part about that whole man-ape situation you didn't even touch on.
Oh, what was that?
Okay, so the whole point of this thing is the man-apes see the monolith and they don't know what it is. So then, being that they are of lower intelligence, they think it's some sort of a god. So they all run over and they touch it. By touching it, you're given the impression that they have obtained some sort of intellect from it. Because after that, the head man-ape figures out how to create tools. He creates he gets a bone and figures out if he hits the bone on things, he can break stuff. Then he figures out he can break the skull of this skeleton that was sitting there. And prior to that, when they were just fiddling around, as Corey put it, they were fighting over a water hole, which is one of the last water holes, and their group lost the water hole to a whole nother group. So they're off in the distance basically suffering because they have nothing to drink. He figures out how to make this tool. They go back. They get into a turf war over this water hole, and that one man-ape basically kills the leader of that group with his new tool that he's figured out how to use because the monolith told them something. At least this is what you're given the idea of. And he takes over the water hole, and they figure out that now, we just killed this guy, and we're sitting here hungry, and there's all of these capybaras around, and they kill a capybara and they eat it. So they figured out
what?
It's this big pig thing that's running around with them. So basically, they kind of figure out. You kind of get the idea that the monolith has something to do with the evolution of mankind. Then he throws the bone up into the air, which is the only interesting part was this weird smash cut that they used where he throws the bone up in the air and they smash cut to this spaceship that's the same shape as the bone, which kind of depicts man's creation of tool and then moves you to the new tool that man is using in the current time frame. This movie is so freaking long and drawn out. That was like 30 minutes in and you've got nothing to go from.
Well, like I said, when you first watch it, there are things that you don't quite understand, but I think the more that you watch it, it's one of those movies that you start to understand things. Like, I didn't quite understand what you had just said, and I'm sure you found that on a website somewhere, and we're just regurgitating it.
No, actually, that's what I got out of it. That was the whole point. Like, they were all touching in there and everything, and then he walked away, and he looks at the thing, and he's like, oh, we know the story of like basically primates learning to use tools. That's the difference between us and other non-intelligent animals is learning to use tools. So that's what
a bunch of Brendan Frasers.
Yes, Encino Man. So anyhow, up in the space station, the doctor gets there, and already it's kind of interesting. You can see that there's advertisements in some of these locations just in this main floor. It's like. They've got little phone booths, and they're brought to you by like whatever Bell system phone system was at the time. It's brought to you by that. Howard Johnson was had an ad in there.
So you said it was the phone at the time. So was it brought to you by Alexander Graham Bell? Because this is how fucking old your movie is.
Yes, it was. But I just thought that was interesting because it's actually kind of something that goes on now. I mean, you see all these different things like, for instance, like stadiums, sports stadiums. They're like, it's like Conseco Fieldhouse. It's not just like a specific stadium, but that's kind of like what these sections were. So it's almost kind of like kind of a foreshadowing. It's like he knew that something like that was going to happen, or it's just a good guess. So you find
you're reaching a little bit on that one.
Wow.
He also they did that. They also guessed wrong on a number of things too, because they have advertisements for some of the stuff that just doesn't exist anymore.
Well,
it all went defunct.
Well, it's the idea though. But he goes and he talks to his daughter on the phone and wishes her happy birthday. Then he can't be there because he's going to have this meeting with these other scientists. The daughter being played by Kubrick's real life daughter, and so he gets done with that. And something else too, it was a video phone, so it's kind of like Skype. So he's all Skype.
He invented Skype.
He invented Skype back in
What? Okay, this might sound like a dumb question. I'm realizing that. I'm taking a chance on it. But what year is it supposed to be?
They don't say. All you know is it's a future because of the space.
Can you assume 2001?
Yeah, I think.
Or does the 2001 have another thing that that we haven't seen yet?
They don't specifically say, but you can probably assume that it is. I think at one time, I want to say I heard the 1990s mentioned in there too. Did you? You're not wanting to say. That's okay. But
sorry, go ahead.
So anyway, he talks to, he sees a couple people that he knows, and he's talking to him and whatnot. And then he goes into this meeting, and in this meeting, they're explaining that they found this monolith, and they tried to dig around it, and they can't find the base. So it's determined that he, along with some other scientists, were going to go down to the surface, and they were going to try and take video of it. But once they do, this alarm goes off. And it ends. I assume that it ends up killing them because you don't end up seeing anything more of them for the rest of the time. The rest of the film is. Oh, I forgot. I did want to mention the cinematography. While he's on the space station, he's actually sitting. He's sitting there, waiting on his food, and the stewardess goes to get his food. And the way that they use the cameras and it rotated, like the scene rotated, like she was actually walked up the wall, but it was the way that they were turning the whole set, and it made it look like she was walking up the wall and then walking out. So she was pretty much upside down, and it's really neat. And that's one of the things too that led them to being nominated for an Oscar, which they won Best Special Effects and Best Effects. And
it was just a weird scene, though, because when she's walking, like they show her walk in the first time, they're on this weird spaceship, and the seats are sunk down into the ship, and there's like a catwalk in the middle that she walks across, and they give no indication of any way that catwalk has any special function to it, but she doesn't float. But everything else, like they're strapped in with 5-point harnesses, this guy's pen's floating around, she's just like grabs a pen, sticks it back in his pocket, walks away. Like gravity doesn't affect this one person on this ship at all, and then all of a sudden she can walk on walls.
Yeah. But then after that, then it goes to another scene where it's 15 years later, and it's these other astronauts.
So present day.
Yeah. It's 15 years later, and these other astronauts are up in the ship, and they have a few other astronauts who are actually in deep sleep because they're waiting to get to Jupiter. That's where their destination is, and while the two astronauts have an interview with the BBC, and they're talking about their trip and their computer. Their computer's name is Hal, and Hal basically has a person. He doesn't have. doesn't have like a laughing type of personality where he's laughter and can joke with people, but it's more so of very smart and knowledgeable. I think Jeopardy did something actually when Ken Jennings was still on there. They had
Watson.
Yeah, Watson. There you go. So it's similar along those same lines, and so they would talk, they would interact with Hal and whatnot, and at one point, the astronauts decide they want to talk about Hal, but in order to do that, they have to find a place that he can't hear them, so they go in one of their little space pods, and they start talking, saying, I think we need to pull the plug on it, because they don't necessarily trust it, trust the computer itself. And little do they know that there's a screen, and Hal has its like camera facing that little window in the pod and can read their lips, so he knows what's going to happen. So one of the guys goes out to do something outside the.
Have you ever
spaceship.
hold on? Have you ever seen someone? Have you ever met someone that reads lips?
Deaf people.
Yeah. Have you ever met anyone like you physically? Have you ever met anyone personally that you know that reads lips? Have you ever seen them do it?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the number one thing that they need you to do when you do it?
Oh, I don't know that much.
Okay. So a deaf person, when they're reading your lips, you have to do two things. One, you have to speak slowly, and you have to look them directly in the face, because they have to see your full mouth, what your mouth is doing in order to tell what letters you're making. If you turn sideways to someone when they're reading your lips, they can't read your lips. And in this movie, they're looking at each other face to face. He's looking at them through the screen from the side view. There's no way he could possibly read their lips.
I can counter you by saying it wasn't a deaf person that was reading their lips. It was the HAL 9000.
Correct, but it still had there's no inference. Like it's designed, it's the whole point of reading lips is that you can see what the person is saying.
Vic, we're talking about the future, okay? The year 2016.
Yes, this is
The technology will be there to be able to side
it's impossible.
lip read.
This is a very smart
Side
computer,
replay.
and so
You got to take the L, Vic. Take the L.
I just think you're being overly supportive of him. So
one of the,
I told you he's at a severe disadvantage.
yeah, I noticed.
so one of the scientists goes out. I believe that he went out to repair something on the.
So much so that I'm trying to help him.
He went out to repair something, and while he was out there, Hal sabotaged him and actually knocked him out, and actually it ended up killing him. So he's kind of floating out in space, and so the other astronaut has to go out there and get back in. And at this point, he realizes something's not right with Hal, because when he gets back in, he's like yelling for Hal to open the door, and he won't do it. And he finally is able to get back in, and he's like, I saw you guys talking, and I know what you were planning on doing. So Hal knew at this, and so the astronaut knows how to shut down Hal. So he goes in there and starts pulling the plugs and is able to basically reset him. At this time, he finds the video that was made prior to them leaving, and explains to them that 15 years ago that this monolith was found. So because they didn't get all these instructions beforehand, and explains everything to them and what their mission was, and that Hal knew what the mission was, but these guys didn't. And so at this point, shit starts going a bit crazy, and it's like it's like one of those psychedelic dreams where it's like
It's only 18 months, by the way.
it was 18
It's not
months.
15 years.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
So,
Go ahead.
All right. So anyhow, so stuff starts going crazy, and finally at one point, the astronaut is in this room, and he sees this old man sitting there eating dinner, and then we follow the old man around, and the monolith is in this room, and so it's again, it's one of those things where you have to watch it several times in order to understand exactly what's going on. It wasn't until this time that I kind of understood that monolith was almost like it's God, and that he's watching over, or a god, and is watching over everything, and that's like him being there in all these different positions in time. And like I said, the music is one of the key things here. The cinematography is amazing, especially for this time period. It's 1968. You don't really see a lot of special effects.
It is nice to hear you compliment a movie for once.
Hey, thank you.
Oh, the cinematographer was not very good. Yeah. That's what you usually sound like.
Is that what I sound like?
Oh.
And again, Stanley Kubrick won an Oscar for Best Effects. He was nominated for Best Director. Best Writing, Story, and Screenplay was nominated as well as Best Art Direction, too. This movie, you have to at least see it once. And, since you haven't seen it, I suggest you just watch it once. Sure, it's a little long. But I don't think it's not one of those things where you sit there and go, "Oh my God, this thing's dragging on." Except if you're Vic. So
That's exactly what the thing does.
no,
Yes, it's exactly what it is. You skip so much of this movie in order to make it seem a lot shorter than what it is. But there are even key points in the thing that you missed.
Like you do.
There's even key points in the story that you missed in general, like the fact that Hal was actually trying to kill them. Why? Like, you made me watch this movie, so we need to talk about the movie.
Because he knew that they were going to pull the plug on him.
And why did they want to pull the plug on him?
Because they didn't trust him. They didn't like it.
Because they
told the BBC that everything was cool, and
He explained all that.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
No. Let me tell you what it actually is.
Vic fell asleep
Let me
during
tell
that
you
part.
exactly what it actually is. Hal, they think Hal is they don't trust Hal, correct. But they think Hal is an error, and Hal has been arguing with him that he cannot be an error, that he knows what he's doing and that he's correct.
Oh, yeah, he didn't
They
go...
think that he's wrong, but a key part of it is Hal starts going after them because they want to disconnect him, and he figures out what they're doing, yes, because he read their lips from the side. But there's a whole part of this thing where the reason why they're on this mission 18 months later is because they know that there's another monolith, and they're sending them out there to go look for it. That part he completely skipped out on. So,
well, I don't give away everything like you do. I mean, we've already
Oh, snap, son.
we've already established in previous episodes that
nothing you said would interest me to want to watch this movie.
Well, let's see. I've probably been talking longer than most about my movie, longer than most of the other episodes. So this is kind of a fuck. I don't know. I never get that. That's what I was expecting to hear. I'm done. I'm serious. I already said it once that this is a movie that you've got to see at least once, just for the music.
You made me watch it twice.
And the effects. I only made you watch it once, just for the effects and for the music alone. I mean, again, it's one of those like several.
You can't say I'm done and then continue talking when I turn the hurry up music off.
Well, the hurry up music's fine. I'm done. Vic, go.
All right, Vic. On to Aliens.
So, my movie is Aliens. It is the second installment in the Aliens movie franchise, and this is one of the first movies that I have ever thought of and heard people actually make the statement of, and you said yourself, that was a better movie than the original. The original being Alien, which was a bottle episode inside the ship. This one gives you a little bit more of the universe of that Aliens is built in. This movie is from 1986. It stars Sigourney Weaver and a number of other cast members who are quite memorable. One of the main cast members that I enjoyed the most was Captain Hicks. He was played by Bill Paxton. And he was kind of like one of the key characters in this thing, and made it memorable for me, because there's a lot of quotes that were generated from this movie because of that idiot.
Okay, no, this is gonna sound so bad. Who's the dude at Independence Day?
That's Bill Pullman.
Bill Pullman.
Yeah.
Okay.
But honestly, no, you know what? It's not crazy because a lot of people, if you put those two next to each other, you kind of
Well, no, we made that joke running throughout Independence Day episode,
Yes.
but also I realized I have him in my that speech for Bill Pullman as Bill Paxton, and I have Bill Paxton spelled wrong.
And it's, yeah, I was gonna say, but he's spelled right.
So sorry, go ahead.
Lance Henderson is also in this, plays the android named Bishop, who throughout not only this but the actual Alien versus Predator movies, he shows up as a key character in those as well.
He's the Robert Englund.
Kind of survived through a number of these shows, or movies. The basis behind this movie is that at the beginning of the movie, they find the derelict escape pod that Sigourney Weaver's character Ripley used to get away from the Nostromo during the first movie. They cut it open, they pull her out, they check and see that she's actually still alive inside of her pod with her cat. So they take her back to a space station that's orbiting Earth. They revive her, and you find out that she's actually been asleep in that pod for 57 years, and that her 11-year-old daughter has died. And that's pretty much the first thing that Paul Reiser's character tells her, because that's the first thing she wants to know is what happened to my daughter.
You can count on me, no matter what you do. You know what that's from?
Is that from his TV show?
My Two Dads.
I don't think I ever watched that show.
It's a great show.
Was it? Mm-hmm. So he informs her, they go through a whole thing about what happened to the Nostromo, because obviously the Weyland-Yutani Corporation owned that ship, and they want to know what happened to the millions of dollars that they lost because of that ship being destroyed. And they found out that she was the one who set the self-destruct sequence for it, and they're kind of pissed off, so they want to find out, what happened. So she explains to them what happened, that the alien got on the ship, it killed all of the crew, and they had to get rid of it somehow, so she blew up the ship. Come to find out that it wasn't on the ship, it was in the escape pod, then she blew it out the airlock. They think she's lying. So they put her back into service for the corporation, and she starts working again and just living her life. Probably as the oldest person alive at this point. When they bring her in for her hearing to find out to see if they're going to prosecute her, they go through everything and they decide that they're not going to prosecute her. But she did give them some information about where they were, and she found out that they're actually terraforming that planet that they had gone to where they found the alien in the first place. She gets concerned and tells them that they need to get those people off that planet. Because they don't understand what's going on, and at that point, they come back and tell her that you're going back to that planet. She's like, "Fuck you! I'm not going back there." They're like, "No, you're going back. We need you to go back." So she finally relents and decides to go back because she's going to be accompanied by a group of Marines that are going to protect her and find out what's going on. And the only reason why they agreed to go back is because, as she warned them, something was going to happen to those colonists, and the colonists did end up disappearing. And the colony that they had set up there that was supposed to be terraforming the planet just went off the grid and stopped responding.
Is this the birth of cliche, army team guys? Tough female. She's tougher than the guys.
Oh, yeah.
Big male buddy of her, like that whole very cliche.
I think that's probably one of the first places where you had that chick, like Vasquez was like the hard knocks, tougher than everybody. Everyone's afraid of her. But then they put that in everything. Like if you look at, was it Starship Troopers? You have that same stereotype in that one too. Where they do that.
Wasn't it an Avatar too?
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Like pretty much all of those. There's that. Yeah, the tough chick. The big, goofy, kind of nice guy, the old private, yeah, like it's just very cliche.
Yeah, I've only got 14 days left. I'm done. Which is actually a line in there. So they get back. They board the ship. They're going back to investigate the planet. Now, the extended version of this, in the original, they did not show you the colonists, but in the extended version, they actually give you a little glimpses of what was going on the planet before they got there and before the aliens actually took all the colonists. So you get to see some different things. You actually get to see that Newt, who is the little girl that they find on the planet, her parents were the ones who actually found the alien spaceship, and the father is the one who got face hugged. Then they brought him back, and they made the same mistake that everyone makes. Let's take the alien thing onto the ship and see what's going on with it. So once they finally arrive at the planet, They touch down and they investigate. They find that there are a couple of live specimens of the facehuggers there. So obviously they found a nest. They brought a bunch of them back. They were studying them. And by doing so, they alerted all of the aliens that were on the planet that there were humans, food, and incubators there. So they came and took all the people. The squad and Ripley enter into they go into the ship, and they start looking around at the colony to figure out what happened. They figure out that they find the tracers that they have on all the colonists. They put on the colonists to figure out where people are. They're all lit up and they're still active underneath of the power station for the colony. So they decide they're going to go and look and see what's going on there. So they go looking for the people. They find the people, and where they find them is basically in a incubator hatchery area for the aliens. They're all kind of stuck up and slung against the walls. Most of them have already been already gestated the baby aliens, so their chests are all ripped open. They find one person alive. They try to save her, and right as they're trying to save her, the alien pops out of her chest. They blow it away, and they basically alert the aliens that there's more humans there. So aliens start popping out of the corners from everywhere and coming after them. They take off. They try to fight them off. Some of their guys get taken. The ones that escape.
I have a serious set of skills.
One of them.
Hello. Hello. Very good.
One of them, a bunch of them get taken. So the residents that escape run back and head back for the main building, hoping that they can get some distance between them and the aliens. When they get back, they realize that they want to basically get off of the planet. They figure out they call for their dropship. The dropship comes to get them, and they get annihilated by aliens. So these people are just completely unprepared for what's going on. And Ripley tried to warn them of it, but they didn't believe her. And now the aliens are basically just annihilating all of them. So they're stuck on the planet. Only way to get off the planet is to bring down a dropship, and Bishop, being their one and only, their android, can communicate with the ship, but he has to get to the communications array, so he goes for that, while they all kind of hunker down and try to barricade themselves in. This is the first time I saw something really cool in this movie. Was they had these little robotic sentry guns, which they set up in the hall, and they figured out that they were coming through an access tunnel that connected that building to their building. So they put these robotic guns into the tunnel, and they sealed the door shut, and the guns were basically unloading thousands of rounds into these aliens and killing them. And it's like, it was just really cool looking, like what they were doing. And the second hallway that they put it in had annihilated like all the aliens. The aliens took off and hauled ass. They're like, we're not doing this anymore. They figured out another way to get in, so they came in through the air ducts, and they got in on top of them and basically tried to annihilate them as well. Everyone pretty much gets killed. The aliens are very good at what they do. They take just about everybody. Hicks gets he shoots one of the aliens. The pressurized acid sprays all over him. He gets his thing off, but he's all burnt up. And he so they're trying to get out of there, and one of the aliens grabs Newt. They're climbing through some ductwork, and Newt slides down this thing, ends up in some water down in the bottom of the duct. And she had one of those bracelets on, so they ran down to try to find her. And in the course of trying to find her, they cut open a grate. They go to reach for her, and there's a scene in this which is just creepy as hell. She's sitting in water, and she's just like right below them, waiting to get saved. And you just see like this tentacle come out of the water, and then like slowly you see this like 8-foot tall alien come up behind her, and she doesn't hear or see it. And then she turns around, and it grabs her and takes off with her. So they get. The drop ship shows up. They go to get Newt, and she takes the pulse rifle and the flamethrower and tapes them together. You kind of have that A-Team moment where she makes a specialized weapon to help her defeat the bad guy, and she heads down to go find Newt.
Just for your plot. You can make other points, but for your plot.
I got you. She finds her down in the bottom of the ship where the queen, a 14-foot tall alien, has been in the bottom of the ship birthing them babies and popping out these little eggs that have the facehuggers in them. She gets her, basically threatens that she'll kill all the eggs if she doesn't let her go, so she tells the aliens to leave her alone. She grabs the kid, runs upstairs, jumps on the ship. The queen disconnects herself and chases her up the ship, like Bowser and Mario. They jump on the ship, they fly up, they get to the ship, they want to nuke the planet from space, but to find out that the mother alien is on the ship with her, she climbed up on top of the ship, she kills Bishop, she runs over and jumps in the power suit because she's got Newt trapped under the floor. She runs out with the power suit, has a little hand-to-hand combat with the mother alien, flips a flamethrower off at her, scares her, drops her in a hole, opens up the airlock. She gets sucked in. She grabs her shoe. She holds on. She manages to close the door, and that's the end.
Boom. I remember I had that toy of like of
power
Sigourney Weaver in the power lifter,
Yep.
and then the big alien thing.
That little rocket thing that came up on top and
Yep.
fired. Yep.
And that's what I said. I always remember that big ass suit.
Yeah.
It's iconic, right?
And it's actually, if you look at a lot of any of the like mechanized type things that they've come up with, it's all based after that.
Maybe so iconic that James Cameron reused it in Avatar. It's something very similar to that.
Maybe, but you can't hold that against this movie.
No.
It set a standard. So some interesting facts about it. It also won an Academy Award for Best Actress for Sigourney Weaver.
Wow, sci-fi actress
won
getting best award. That's impressive.
Sound effects. Won an award for sound effects, for visual effects. They won a ton of Saturn Awards as well. The score for the movie was done in 4 days. This movie actually, when it was released, it was literally finished in post the same week that it was released. So there were no, they didn't have any pre-screens or anything. Like, they finished just in time to get it out to the theaters. And the gentleman, what is his name? The guy who did the score for the movie, he had written out this whole thing, and basically they said, no, we're not going to use it. We don't have time to use this. Just come up with something. So he literally in 4 days wrote the entire score for this entire movie. And he got an Academy Award for it. So that's pretty damn impressive. $18 million budget, made $183 million in the box office.
10 times. I'd say that's pretty good.
Yeah, definitely made their money back. There were just a ton of freaking quotes that came out of this. Stay frosty. They did "Let Her Go, You Bitch" is an iconic kind of screaming thing that they did with that, and it's actually rated as one of the top 100 lines from quotes from a movie. Game Over, Man. I was
wondering if you were going to mention that one.
That one is like all kinds of crazy because.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
He's when he actually realizes that there are aliens, that he didn't believe there were aliens. When he figures out that there are aliens, he was like, okay, I'm done with this. And that's where he kind of loses his shit.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
It's commercial time. All right, Corey, you've been at a disadvantage this entire episode, so I feel like the right thing to do is to let you go first with your, let them know where they can find you.
Okay, you can find me on Letterboxd.
And in space, nobody can hear you promote. Vic, go ahead.
You can find me at MillerKing51 on social media. You can also find me online playing games as Black and Angry. That's BLAQ and Angry.
All right, Corey. You're not next. You can find me at BradScottComedy.com, link to social media, or you can go to Twitter and Instagram at BradScottComedy, or go to Facebook, Comedian Brad Scott. Make sure you follow the show at The Showdown Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and The Showdown Podcast on Facebook. Click like somebody should. All right, Corey.
Are you sure?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, you can find me on Letterboxd and Twitter at NKOGonzo.
All right. Also, don't forget to rate and review us, and check us out at Horror Hound later this year in Indianapolis.
Yes, we'll be there September 9th and 10th, wandering around the hallways.
So with that, let's get back to the show. Welcome back to the Showdown Podcast. This is our Deep Space Duel. We hope you enjoyed that commercial break. And I've made a decision. Are you guys ready for my decision?
Yes, this should be interesting.
Corey, if you had to guess, what would you think?
If I had to guess, I would say I'm going to lose once again.
Why is that? Why would you think you're going to lose?
Because generally when it's a movie that I've picked, especially if it's old and you never watched it, I generally lose.
Okay.
I feel he's going to get the pity win.
Interesting.
Two takes.
So you both think you're going to lose. Guess what? You both lost. No.
You win, we win.
It's a tie.
Okay, so here's the deal. I realized that that's exactly how you were going to think. Okay? So I sincerely made an effort. Like, here's what I did. Like, if you notice, I didn't give you a loser game show sound or a Mario death
That's true. I did
during your entire argument.
I think that's a new record.
Yeah.
He actually fought me off for you.
I did, yeah. I called him off. But he had to like describe your movie. Okay, so even after all that,
Just a little bit.
I'm really like I tried to give you my full attention. I wasn't even following on Wikipedia or anything like that. I was just listening to you, and you confused me. I didn't really know what the hell your movie was about until 45 minutes into your argument. It was a lot like your movie, apparently.
You got it quicker than the movie let you get it.
Yeah, but Vic, Vic did he had a good argument, and it's a movie I like better. But sometimes that doesn't matter.
As we know.
Yeah, he's lost with both of those things going for him in the past.
Most definitely.
But Vic gets the win.
I was about to say, rip the Band-Aid off, brother.
And let me tell you why. First of all, I don't know what Vic was doing, basically doing your argument for you. I thought that was strange.
I wanted you said you had never seen it, so I wanted you to get a good representation of what the movie was, and I didn't feel like part of what he was missing part of it.
Here's how you lost, Corey. You had the win, even with his good argument of his own movie and everything else. You had the win right up until I gave you ample time at the end of his argument for you to say something bad about his movie, or give me or say a reason as to why your movie was better. And instead, you played around on your fucking laptop and stared into that screen while he was listing off famous quotes from Aliens.
To tell you the truth,
I gave you until he was into listing off famous quotes from Aliens because Vic just forgot about the Rotten Tomatoes, had nothing fucking else to talk about. He had given a great argument and was running on the fumes, and I let him run on the fumes because I wanted you to win. I just wanted you to say something. You could have said, hey, Vic, you shit on me because you said my movie's too long. Your movie is 5 minutes less than mine.
Here's the thing. You mentioned that I was messing around on the laptop. I was actually looking at the quotes because I knew that was something that he hadn't mentioned, and I was waiting and I was looking for some lines to use, and then he brought it up, so that threw out my whole bit. So I really didn't have anything else. And to be honest,
I just wanted you to say something.
I know.
You didn't argue against his movie at all.
Yeah, I know. There wasn't really much I could. I'm not because Aliens is a good movie. I'm not going to deny that.
I don't think you get what this show is supposed to be.
You have to find the flaws and use
that's
them.
the whole point.
I know, and again, it was hard for me to find anything that I could.
You can fucking make him up. Like I said, I would have just gone at his argument. He at least argued you. And maybe you should also pick movies that you're really interested in. You seemed bored by what you were when you were going through the plot of the movie.
Oh, I wasn't.
By the way,
yeah.
Here's the other part where you kind of lost me.
Oh boy.
You have to watch this movie multiple times. So you're telling me to get and understand how good your movie is, I have to invest 7 hours into it?
Well, maybe not.
You literally said this. You have to watch it a few times to get how good it is, and then you immediately followed up with, just watch it once. You completely contradicted yourself.
I can see how that could be constructed.
And again, 142 minutes, 3 times. That's like 400 and fucking something minutes.
It took me 3 days to watch the whole movie. I literally watched, I watched the
and I was still gonna give him the win.
The 21st, the first part of it, like the first 20 minutes when I was like, fuck, I forgot that this is this long. And then like halfway through I stopped and like went about
but here's the thing. Your movie's 137 minutes.
Yeah, but at least there's a lot going on during the
But
time frame for
again,
me.
if he just would have said that,
Yeah.
I'd have given him the win. I needed one argument, Vic. I just wanted one argument. Something. Didn't even have to be negative towards you, just positive towards his movie.
Right.
And he let you have it. You kind of forfeited this match. And again, maybe next time, pick a movie that you actually like.
I do actually like that movie.
Where's it rated on your
Is it in your top 100?
letter D?
I don't know. I don't think it's in the top 100 now.
What's your letterbox?
You can find me at letterboxd at NKO Gonzo. It's like
Oh, you forgot to do that though, Vic. I thought that's how you were going to start off here.
I wasn't. It threw me when he's like, I'm done. I'm like, fuck, I didn't. I was gonna hit it, but
You always could have just said. You could have just said, "Give me 1 second." That would have been perfect. All right, how do I find? I just search NKO.
do letterboxd/NKO Gonzo.
Oh, okay. Letterboxd.com
.com /NKO Gonzo.
/NKO.
I don't think that's in my top 100 to be honest with you.
No, because I'm going to be interested to see what movies
you could have. You was
that you have above this. What space movies you have above this? What is How do I look for your list?
It should have come back right up on Google. That's what I usually do.
There we go. I found it. Top 100 favorite films. 102 films. Fucking brilliant. Of course.
You added 2 more.
Well, it's because 2 of them, after I saw them for the first time, they're newer ones. I got put in the top 100, and I just never took them.
All right, let's see how long it takes for us to get to a space movie. All right, now I'm through the first, and I'm going from 1 down, by the way.
Spaceballs is the first one.
Star Wars, although we've already used that wouldn't count.
Spaceballs at 43.
Are you going from 100 down, or?
No, I started at 1.
Yeah, Spaceballs. Is there any other ones?
Which would have been kind of funny since
Guardians of the Galaxy, but that's already been used.
Yeah, we've already used that one.
Although to be honest, it would have been you would have had a better shot if you just would have maybe gone with one of those. Total Recall.
Yep, that's a space movie.
Oh yeah,
what number is that?
Return of the Jedi.
What number is Total Recall?
85.
85. Return of the Jedi. So we found 3 space movies. You admitted that you liked Gravity. Maybe you could have picked a more interesting
I never
movie.
said I liked Gravity. I just gave me that.
Oh, okay.
I was just
that
saying
reference.
All right.
Reference.
Either way, this has been awful the last 2 minutes. So let's move on. We did again. Oh, God damn it. We still didn't talk about what we were going to talk about afterwards.
No.
Is there anything else left to say, really?
That I really wish I would get some sympathy points at some point.
Well, pick a good movie.
No.
Or have a good argument. One of the two. Again, dude, I stacked the deck for you. Like, I literally couldn't have given you a better opportunity to try to win than today, and you just gave up on yourself.
I didn't give up.
You got to believe in yourself, Corey.
Get out of the corner!
Get out of the corner! I was trying to explain it and trying to be...
Well, again, but again, okay, but you even said... I knew as soon as I picked this movie you weren't going to like it. Well, then maybe you should have picked a different movie.
But
when he's gonna be the judge, you kind of got to take it in effect.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, we know how you are, but at the same time, I want to try and turn you. So
that's fine, and that's fine.
So
but you didn't try very hard.
I knew going in the deck was stacked against me.
But you didn't try very hard. No, but then I turned the tables and I stacked the deck for you. I wanted one sentence.
He put
I'd have taken
aces
3 words
right on top.
I would have taken your movie bad. Like those 3 words. You could have got three words, your movie bad, and I would have been like, Corey gets the win today. It would have been very funny because Vic would have been pissed because I would have admitted I would have been like, you know, Vic, you lost because it was such a one-sided fight. You should have won by more. But he won by enough because you stopped trying. And on that note, thank thank you for listening. I forgot to thank them again at the beginning.
Yep, you did.
We appreciate it so much. Please rate, review on iTunes, follow on all the social media. Please, please, please. We helps us out a lot, and we appreciate you guys listening.
Please nominate us.
Nominate us for our thing. We have a event located on our Facebook page for Corey Miller, Vic Miller. I'm Brad Scott. This has been the Showdown Podcast. We'll talk to you next time.